Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a specific story today. Really the DNA of the modern cannabis market. If you've ever bought, a sleek branded bag of premium flower, you've definitely experienced the result of what we're talking about. We are tracing the rise of designer weed.
Exactly. And this isn't just like a business success story about one company getting big.
Right.
This is really the origin story of the blueprint itself. It's a detailed history of how one core operation, built on incredible rigor, some bold risks, and these really radical branding shifts, how they fundamentally define the flavor profile and the aesthetic for the entire premium market as we know it today.
Yeah, the whole look and feel. So our mission here is to trace this precise journey. We want to show how a high-end Sacramento dispensary became, well, the engine room for what quickly turned into a national brand.
Okay.
We're going to look at their initial, almost secretive, kind of polished beginnings. Then there's this massive, game-changing $72,000 investment in specific genetics. The invention of that iconic packaging. And, the sort of accidental cultural impact that really scaled this whole idea into a phenomenon.
What's really fascinating here, I think, is that the foundation was laid with this immediate sophistication. It was completely unlike their competitors at the time.
Totally different.
The story kicks off in 2009. Caleb opens Fruit Ridge Health and Wellness FHW&C in Sacramento. And our sources really emphasize this was not your standard low-profile operation.
Hello?
It was one of the city's first polished dispensaries. It instantly set this expectation for a higher-end consumer experience.
And behind that polished storefront, that high-end look, there was some serious dedicated R&D happening.
Yeah.
We're talking about a proprietary 36-light setup, and it was focused entirely on hunting for new phenos.
And maybe we should pause on that jargon just for a second. Hunting phenos.
Good idea.
For anyone unfamiliar, when we say that, they were basically searching for the specific desirable expression of a plant's genetics. Starting hundreds, maybe thousands of seeds looking for that 1 in 1,000 jackpot. The specific plant that smells right, grows perfectly, smokes better than anything else, like genetic treasure hunting.
And this was 2009. Think about that. They weren't just selling whatever they could grow easily. They were already running classic, proven heavy hitters like Headband and SFV OG.
The building blocks.
Exactly. Genetics that were the building blocks of their future empire.
Oh.
And this dedicated R&D operation, it's also how Caleb connected with Luke, who was running his own indoor grow nearby.
Ah, the partnership.
Yeah, apparently built on operational problem solving. Caleb fixed some construction issue for Luke, and that kind of kicked things off.
The fact that they had a dedicated R&D lab back in 2009, it just shows a completely different, almost industrial level approach. This tells you they weren't just selling product. They were actively engineering proprietary value through selective breeding, through cultivation mastery, way before the market even fully understood the value of unique, exclusive genetics. They were playing the long game from day one.
But, as is so common in this industry's kind of volatile history, that growth hit a massive immediate wall.
Yeah.
We hit the first major speed bump in late 2011, which brings us to our first section here.
That's right. The whole climate shifted dramatically. Late 2011, you see the Department of Justice letters targeting Sacramento.
The infamous letters.
Yeah, forcing widespread closures across the city, across the state, really. FHW&C had to shut down. And this was a brutal blow. It forced Caleb to basically shelve all those prized genetics he'd been spending years hunting and stabilizing.
Okay, so the government forces you to close your sophisticated, expensive operation. That usually looks like, well, catastrophic failure, right?
Yeah, on the surface.
So why was this setback actually maybe a gift in disguise? How did pivoting during that pressure cooker of 2011 end up benefiting them later on?
Well, that's the key strategic insight here, I think. The setback wasn't really a failure. It was a forced strategic pivot. Caleb used those lessons learned during the closure, the regulatory complexities, the legal threats. He shifted his focus entirely to policy and licensing strategy. Our sources highlight that this expertise, understanding the regulatory landscape, later became absolutely crucial in successfully navigating the complex local and state licensing challenges that came years later.
Ah, interesting.
It showed this really impressive long-term strategic view, turning regulatory adversity into, foundational proprietary legal knowledge.
That's incredibly forward-thinking. Turning a forced stop into an investment in regulatory know-how. And that resilience, it seems, led directly to their reemergence.
Precisely, which brings us nicely into part 2.
Let's move into it. The gelato investment and the cookies era, roughly 2012 to 2016.
Yeah.
Caleb and Luke, they didn't just disappear, they reopened as collective efforts. But the really pivotal moment came a few years later.
Yeah, this is where modern cannabis culture, that whole hype cycle we see today, was really cemented. In 2014, there was this cup handshake deal with Berner.
The Berner connection.
You have to remember, Berner was rapidly becoming the cultural tastemaker right at that intersection of hip-hop and cannabis.
Yeah, huge influence. And that handshake immediately meant collective efforts became Sacramento's official high-volume hub for all the Cookies family drops. The shop's Instagram account literally flipped to Cookies 916. That instantly fueled the hype machine around strains like GSC and, crucially, Sherbinski's emerging gelato wave.
And this brings us to the financial moment of truth. This is where that operational success turns into an immense high-stakes gamble, what we're calling the gelato play.
Right. Luke handed over a massive amount of cash. We're talking $72,000 in cash.
$72K cash.
Directly to Sherbinski, specifically for cuts of 4 proprietary gelato finos.
Yeah.
Number 25, number 33, number 41, and number 45.
Wait, 72 grand in cash. That wasn't like a bank transfer for equipment. That was an insane level of risk for just plant genetics in 2014. It really speaks volumes, doesn't it? About the value they placed on exclusivity, on quality, and the risks they were willing to take completely outside traditional banking to secure that edge.
Definitely.
I mean, in that pre-legal gray market environment, $72,000 for 4 specific cuts, basically clones, was essentially the price of admission into the future premium market. They understood that owning the genetics was owning the future of flavor.
So the big question, did it pay off?
Oh, it absolutely did. Our sources really emphasize that this operation ran some of the best gelatos in California. They mastered the profile. Their work specifically helped push gelato #41 viral.
E41, okay.
And this gelato mastery later went on to win cups, defining G41 as the definitive key cut they utilized to build their whole brand identity around.
So that foundational genetics work, that $72,000 bet, brings us right into part 3. Defining not just the flavor, but the entire designer aesthetic, the look that still dominates store shelves today.
Exactly.
They had the best gelato cuts. Now they needed the presentation to match that premium price point.
And this is where the packaging revolution happens. Connected didn't just use Mylar bags, they essentially created the branded Mylar craze.
Right.
This was one of the very first major branded 8s to hit the market, designed specifically to convey luxury exclusivity.
It was such a complete aesthetic break from the previous standards.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Before this, you as a consumer were used to seeing product handed over in, what, generic, unbranded plastic turkey bags.
Or mason jars, maybe.
Or basic mason jars, yeah. The iconic Connected and Cookies packs just cemented that designer weed look that consumers now instantly recognize as premium. It created a standard where the packaging was almost as important as the flower inside.
But, you know, aesthetics only get you so far if the product doesn't deliver a truly memorable experience, right?
Sure.
So using that gelato foundation, they then engineered their signature taste profile, moving firmly into what became famous as the pastry gas lane.
Ah, the pastry gas.
Yeah.
And the key strain that really established that specific lane was Biscotti,
Yeah.
created in 2016. Biscotti was a strategic cross. It took that original R&D strain, SFV OG, and crossed it with the highly coveted gelato #25 from that big purchase.
And they selected this strain not through like fancy lab analysis, but through a classic, simple test. The blind red cup hunt.
The red cup hunt.
Yeah, essentially, they grew hundreds of seedlings and subjected them to a blind taste and smell test. You know, which one just stood out? Biscotti was that winner. Simple as that.
That creation wasn't the end point, though. It was the blueprint. Biscotti became the foundational DNA for the next generation of strains. It directly spawned Gushers, which was a cross that included Biscotti, the famous G41, and Triangle Kush, another foundational genetic known for its intense potency. This really solidified their unique flavor profile in the market.
And here's where it gets really interesting on the cultural and marketing side, because this wasn't just a regional flavor trend anymore.
Yeah.
The genetics and the brand became instantly tied directly to pop culture, specifically rap lore.
It feels like accidental marketing genius, in a way. Months before a major incident put them on the national radar, you had Migos' smash hit Slide with Calvin Harris.
Right.
And they were rapping Smoked Gelato, directly attaching these specific strains to that high-end music scene.
And then came the inadvertent marketing explosion.
Correct.
The Migos tour bus bust.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
That event unintentionally spotlighted branded cookies and connected bags on a national scale all over the media. This visual public connection between high-end rap culture and these specific designer strains just accelerated the trend and the brand awareness instantaneously. Huge visibility boost, even if unplanned.
Wild. Okay, moving into part 4. How Connected scaled up and set the final blueprint, starting around 2017. As Cookies began to massively scale its retail footprint, Caleb and Luke leveraged their operational success and pivoted back to independence. They officially rebranded solely as Connected in 2017.
Right, they went their own way operationally. And their scaling strategy was really a masterpiece of rapid strategic distribution. Green Wolf became their very first SoCal partner.
Huge market access.
Absolutely, giving them access to the massive Los Angeles market. And that partnership allowed Connected to rapidly scale its product into over 400 doors, dispensary storefronts across California in that initial year alone.
400 doors in a year. Wow.
Yeah, and they were focused on maximizing distribution while meticulously protecting their premium curated brand identity. It wasn't just about volume, it was controlled growth.
And they solidified their strategic positioning with another key alliance in 2017. They partnered with Alien Labs. Ted joined as a co-owner and brand driver. Was this like a traditional merger or something different?
It was more like alignment, which I think is far more powerful in this context. The goal was never assimilation. It was about preserving Alien Labs' unique identity and that strong consumer loyalty they had.
Right, keep the brands distinct.
Exactly. While aligning both these powerful brands under one operational and distribution roof, this provided immense scale and market coverage while maintaining the integrity of both brands. Super smart.
And this dual brand strategy clearly allowed them to achieve and sustain dominance. Connected, alongside Alien Labs, expanded successfully into critical markets like Arizona and Florida. They strategically raised capital, and they've achieved something pretty incredible. They have remained California's #1 flower brand every single month since recreational sales began back in 2018.
Every single month.
And it's just an unparalleled record of sustained market dominance. It speaks volumes about consistent quality and brand management.
And if we connect this all back to that initial blueprint idea, the legacy is just crystal clear. The Biscotti flavor profile, that signature pastry gas combined with those early daring moves in gelato genetics and the invention of that branded Mylar packaging, it still defines the entire designer weed market today.
Yeah.
The competition is essentially chasing a recipe that was perfected years ago by these guys.
So to recap the key ingredients of this success story for you listening, it starts with strategic R&D right from day one, then overcoming massive federal pressure by turning that adversity into deep policy expertise, a willingness to make a massive high-stakes bet on proprietary genetics.
Yeah.
That $72,000 cash investment.
The gelato play.
And the genius invention of a new type of branded packaging that literally created the designer aesthetic we see everywhere.
Which I think raises an important question for you, the listener, especially when you look at any fast-growing market that's driven by technology and branding. The source material proves the undeniable value of exclusive foundational knowledge, those genetic cuts, right? So which is the higher barrier to entry today? Is it the rapidly evolving technology needed for advanced growing and distribution? Or is it the foundational proprietary knowledge, like those early exclusive genetics, that really underpin the whole industry's premium tier?
That's a great way to frame it. Next time you see one of those sleek designer packs on the shelf, just remember, it wasn't only the machinery and the scale that built that empire.
No.
It was the specific hard-won lessons learned during the closures of 2011 and that gut-wrenching decision to bet $72,000 in cash on just 4 plants.
Yeah.
That's a real deep dive.